The wonderful thing is it's only 3 steps. There are only 3 things to do. That's it. Determine the type of weight loss, identify their burner type, and reset your hormones. Let's jump into step 1. According to UCLA research, statistics show that 80% of diets and weight loss programs fail. Why is this? Well, let me show you why. Weight loss actually occurs in 3 different ways. You can lose muscle, water, or fat. If your only objective is weight loss, you can choose to go down one of these 3 paths, but I'm going to take some time to show you why you have the biggest advantage to burn fat over the other 2 options. Let's look at the difference between losing water, muscle, and fat. Most of you know that losing water just dehydrates you. So that's really not the type of weight loss we're looking for, right? Let's look at what happens when you lose muscle. You decrease your fitness level, decrease your strength, create poor performance, and cause early aging. Now, when you lose fat, what happens? You improve your fitness, increase strength, reach peak performance, and delay aging. So there's really only one logical choice: fat loss. And after watching this entire webinar, you'll have the unfair advantage to permanently losing fat, and you'll understand why so many have failed to lose weight permanently. Now listen, if you get this step wrong, this is what it looks like. You'll go through several different fad diets and weight loss programs where you'll lose weight but gain it back. Then you'll convince yourself that it's impossible to permanently lose weight. However, if you get this step right, you'll be able to successfully lose weight and keep it off permanently. My client, James, who you can see in the picture, regularly tried reduction calorie diets, aka starvation diets. He did this over 30 years, losing weight and gaining it back. One day, about 2 weeks into another round of calorie reduction, I showed him exactly what you're about to learn here and why reducing your calories will cause you to actually hold on to your fat storages. I proved this to him by measuring his fat percentage and muscle percentage over time. And he found that he was actually losing vital muscle every time he skipped a meal and ate less calories. In other words, he was tearing down his body. Yes, his numbers would go down the scale, but his muscle is what he was losing. And it got harder to lose weight each time because it slowed metabolism. This is not good. So I ran him through the exact steps I'm about to show you on this webinar. He lost 86 pounds of fat and kept it off ever since. Check that out. 86 pounds of fat. So let's review the facts. 75% of Americans are overweight or obese. Obese is determined by your body mass index. More importantly, it's the relationship between BMI and the risk of death that really matter. BMI is associated with your risk of dying. If your BMI is between 20 and 26, you're at minimal risk, right? If your BMI, as your BMI increases, so is your risk of death. I want you to know how many people, I'm curious on this video, on this webinar, how many of you actually know your BMI? Type in the chat yes or no if you do. Okay. So many of you don't know your BMI actually. It's something that you should know because it's directly related to your risk of dying. Okay. So it's a worthwhile number. So obesity is defined as 30 pounds overweight for a 5'4" person or a BMI of 30 or more. This shows the 10-year growth rates of obesity in America from 2010 to 2019 from the map on the left to the map in the center. The light purple represents 20% of the state being obese. The dark red means 60% of the state is obese. Since the early 2000s, we were becoming fatter by the decade. Now, the map to the right, where you see the red, is where researchers predicted by 2030, it is estimated that 50% of the US will be clinically obese. Oh my God. Now, being overweight or obese is not simply cosmetic. It's important to know that being overweight is literally killing you. For example, when you're overweight, you have sex hormone imbalances that cause cancer and eventually death. You'll have increased fats in your bloodstream that will eventually lead to insulin imbalances, blood pressure problems, diabetes, and heart problems. Look at the bar graph in the slide. The top leading cause of death are heart disease, cancer, respiratory disease. Well, it's pretty interesting to note that being overweight is linked to every single one and more. Respiratory disease has just recently climbed the chart. What do you think is causing respiratory disease? Everyone says COVID, right? And who's more affected by COVID? Elderly, pre-existing conditions, and people who are overweight. As a matter of fact, overweight people are 2 times more likely to die early compared to someone who has normal weight, right? And according to the Mayo Clinic, a simple 5 to 10% reduction in weight, specifically fat, is proven to slash your risk of disease by as much as 50%. How many of you would like to know the exact steps how to lose 5 to 10% of your weight and slash your risk of disease by 50%? Please type in the chat a hell yes if you agree, if you'd like that. Okay, thank you. Yes, yes, awesome, yes. So we now know we need to lose fat. And there are thousands of type of weight loss programs and fad diets. Let's look at the most popular ones, right? Let's look at the low carb. And the description is you eat few calories and more foods and rich in proteins. How does it work? Creates a caloric deficiency. Ketogenic creates a caloric deficiency. Low fat creates a caloric deficiency. Intermittent fasting, I get this one a lot. Restrict your eating period only a few hours every day. It works by creating caloric deficiency. Weight Watchers, paleo, all work by creating caloric deficiency. 99% of them work by creating caloric deficiency. So is that a good idea or a bad idea? Let me help you understand this. Your body is designed to take in calories, then use them for fuel. A caloric deficiency or a reduced calorie diet is defined as more calories burned than replenished. In the example here, if you take 2,000 calories in and you expend 2,500, you have a 500 caloric deficiency. So you're burning more energy than you're putting back in your body. That means you should lose weight, right? Well, maybe, but I can tell you not for long. When you do this for a period of time, it triggers a genetic ancestral wiring that says to store fat for fuel for future use. In other words, your brain thinks it may not get enough fuel and may need a future fuel source. So it retains fat on your body. This is why reduced calorie diets have the opposite effect on the body and they can be dangerous. Let me show you the facts. I'm going to give you 5 reasons. According to medical research, I pulled these from the American Medical Association journal, right? It says reduced calorie diets are dangerous, right? The first reason is because it actually slows your metabolism by causing muscle loss. Remember the BMI number? Well, if you lose your muscle, your BMI goes up because you now have more fats relative to muscle. Do you remember what happens to your chance of dying with a higher BMI? Yes, it increases your chance of dying early. Reason number 2, according to medical studies, regularly eating fewer calories than your body requires can cause fatigue and nutrient deficiencies. For instance, calorie restriction diets may not provide sufficient amounts of iron, folate, or vitamin B12, calcium, vitamin A, and magnesium. This can lead to anemia and extreme fatigue. Now, you may have noticed when you reduce your calories lower than what you start with, you feel lethargic. This is why, folks. This is why. Reason number 3, according to medical studies, overly restricting calories may reduce fertility, causing menstrual irregularities and cause negative effects on bone and heart health. You see, your hormone levels partially rely on you having a sufficient number of calories in your diet. This will affect things like the ability to get pregnant. Studies show that the reproductive function is suppressed in people who eat 22 to 42% less calories than what's required of their body. Now, you may not want to get pregnant, but think about the other thousands of functions in your body that require hormones, including sleep, energy, emotional balance, skin health, libido, immune function, and the list goes on and on and on, right? So reason number 4, calorie restriction diets can reduce estrogen and testosterone levels, which reduce new bone formation and increase bone breakdown. Interesting enough, when we reduce calories and combine it with physical exercise, it causes a big problem. This is why, this is what most diets recommend. When people finally, schedule a call with me, they've been doing this for a while. It actually increases stress hormones, which leads to early aging and even faster breakdown in your body, and it doesn't feel good. Or yikes. Number 5, 5th reason, calorie restriction may increase your risk of infection and illness. This applies to all viruses and disease in general. In several studies, athletes who made frequent attempts to stay lean by reducing calories while exercising were 2 times as likely to get sick. Does this sound like a good idea, especially just coming out of a global pandemic? If this were the only reason I gave you, wouldn't it be enough to stop the madness of fad diets and unhealthy weight loss programs that cause you to lose muscle and water but not fat? Please type in the chat. Can you see the advantage of keeping your muscle? Please type it yes. Amen. Amen. Okay, I agree with you. All right, okay. So let's understand fat. There's 3 types of fat. You have structural, normal, and abnormal. The first 2 are healthy fat. If we went back 40,000 years when humans roamed the earth, we didn't have access to excess amounts of foods that we do today, right? We had tons of food right now, but not back then. In fact, back then you had to work for your food. So we were designed to take an excess energy and turn it into fat storage. That's why normal fat is a healthy fat storage, right? However, today it's much different than 40,000 years ago. Today we're in a state of excess energy, which means that your fat stores fill up. Your body begins to store abnormal fat. Abnormal fat is the unhealthy fat you see in the back of your arms, between your thighs, and the parts of your butt that you don't like, and the parts of your belly that you don't like, right? So this works very much like a bank deposit. Every day you make a small deposit that is readily available should you ever need it, okay? But your deposits get bigger and bigger. The banker or your body will say, hey, we should put your deposits into a savings bond. The problem is that your savings bond are not as easy to access and release as a simple deposit. And that's why it's so difficult to lose abnormal fat. It's stored in such a way that traditional weight loss programs can't access because of the 5 reasons I showed you so far. So now when you say you want to lose weight, what you really mean is that you want to lose abnormal fat. So let me show you what happens when you focus on fat loss. Remember James, who is 61, previously diagnosed with colon cancer, and he knew his excess fat was toxic. He was 280 pounds and wanted to lose 75 pounds. I explained to him the difference between weight loss and fat loss, like you now know. We then took him through the next 2 steps I'm about to show you. He said, this program was so easy. I lost 31 pounds in the reduction phase. I've never felt hungry during the program. I'm taking off for a month of exercise. I'm taking off for a month. I'm going to exercise to firm up areas where I lost fat and get ready to try for another round. The hardest thing to do was to resist the urge to exercise because of the energy I felt during the day. My blood pressure is now normal. This is key, folks. Again, it's totally normal. And I have lost enough that my wife tells me I stopped snoring at night. Guys, the excess weight is affecting way more areas than you are aware of, but a lot of times your loved ones are aware of it. Okay. When I applied the same 3 steps for another 40 days, went him through another program, right? He lost a total of 86 pounds. Keep in mind, James had tried tons of diets before this. See, he put in there, he had tried keto diets. He even went to the Metabolic Research Center, right? And so now with this program, he's down 86 pounds, but he dropped 10 pant sizes. But now you understand the power of focusing on fat loss and not just weight loss. So now you've learned this valuable content, type in the chat yes or no to these questions. Can you see how choosing the right type of weight loss is paramount in your success? Yes or no? Can you see how choosing to focus on fat could reduce your risk of disease by 50%? And do you understand the power of focusing on fat loss and not weight loss? Please type in the chat, yes, yes, okay, good. You guys are on track.